character Chris, who we meet in a very shocking way in the opening scenes of For the Sake of Vicious.
Yeah, well, a lot like Reese, my filmmaking journey kind of started, quite a while ago. It's been quite the journey, and a lot of people on this panel, they all have a massive passion for horror film. And yeah, growing up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, remember the first movie I grew up on, because I gotta mention this, was the Lost Boys, and like the Lost Boys kind of raised me, and like that was such a massive movie in my childhood.
Hell
And
yeah.
that kind of just started my love for horror film. And so it's really kind of amazing to be able to make the kind of movies that we're making now in the same genre.
Just FYI,
yeah,
I went to UC Santa Cruz, and Santa Cruz is where The Lost Boys was filmed. So,
Nice.
I
that's
also
amazing.
feel a connection. I was in high school when it came out, but I went to college, and yeah, I got to visit the boardwalk many times, and
That's cool.
it always takes me back. You say Lost Boys, you were just pulling at one of my own personal heartstrings, but please continue, sir.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I worked with Reese before on a film called Defective, and that's actually where I met Colin. Well, Colin, that was the first time him and I worked with each other on that one as well.
Yep.
And so when I had a smaller part in Defective, and then when we came together on For the Sake of Vicious, yeah, Colin and I, we got pretty close on that one. Physically, definitely physically, but it's a pretty, pretty intense stuff on that one.
Your spit goes into his mouth.
Can I tell you how close Nick and I got?
Please.
His bodily fluids leaked into my mouth. That's how close.
Does not.
Yeah,
that's how close.
That wasn't
we
planned.
No.
Well, that's how you know someone's really fucking going for it, is when the spit just, you don't give a fuck because you're right in the moment.
Yeah, and like that kind of stuff was like happening like during like the most intense scenes, especially like the we call it the courtroom scene, right? Is that what we call it?
The trial.
The trial, yeah. Which is one of the many scenes that happen in a kitchen in this movie. But yeah, like that for me anyway, that was one of the most intense scenes. Like, we've talked about this before on other panels, where a movie like this could never be done during COVID, because there's a lot of spit going around.
Yeah. I mean, the cast isn't huge, but the cast is all up in each other's business.
Yeah.
Nick was always on character on set too. I remember like after those intense takes, I'd be there and he'd come behind the camera and he'd be like, "So what do you think? Is that good? Is that good? Is this going good?" Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me, man.
He gets in it. He doesn't leave.
I don't see how you could pop into and out of that either. You're probably rooted there for a while. Let me pivot over to your co-star, Colin. Kind of the same questions, or the same, giving you the same opportunities. Introduce yourself. Tell us what you've done, where you've been, and then kind of introduce your character, Alan, by revealing as much or as little as you choose.
All right, fair enough. Thank you. Yeah, you know what? Like everybody else, I was a kid when I got into horror. It was my 13th birthday. I rented Friday the 13th, 1980 on Laserdisc. And you guys remember those? You guys remember Laserdisc? You had to flip it halfway through the movie because there you could only fit one. Yeah, anyway. The picture quality was amazing though.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was just, that was the match that lit the fuse. And I've been a horror fan ever since. And so,
he's like Matt Gates.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah.
So that was always a challenge, and I'm sort of like Gabe was saying, Nick was always in character, during and after takes, and I'm the opposite. We'll do like a big intense scene, and then as soon as I hear cut, I'm you know, it's it.
I don't blame you for not wanting to be in that Alan headspace any longer than you had to be.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
There's some twists, but for lack of a better term, you're a bad guy. You're the bad guy to Nick's good guy. We're gonna just throw around those terms in broad senses.
Yeah.
Your characters make those terms very nuanced.
Yes, absolutely, they do. And you know what? In all credit to Reese, who wrote the script. He's written them that way, which was as an actor, that's amazing. You've got that all written on the page for you. So So Alan was, from the beginning, Alan was always a question mark for me. And I don't know, you tell me, man.
No, I mean, tough role to play for sure. No, absolutely, because it's the kind of character that you don't want to hang out with. You don't want to be that guy in real life, and you wouldn't hang out with him if you cross paths with him. So obviously, I'm glad to know you as not Alan, as Colin.
Thank you.
But no, I think you definitely nailed it as that really intense bad guy in a suit who is just barely sitting back and retaining a high level of violence. Definitely came through. Gonna dive into all this a little deeper. First, got to talk to my home slice Avi over here before he thinks I've been ignoring him this whole time. Like I said, I tried to do a little homework before these things too. Looked at everyone's IMDb page, and I think you've as a producer produced every single genre, including documentaries. I think I saw some Holly Hobby or something, cartoon kitty stuff on there. But obviously, you weren't afraid to produce a film like For the Sake of Vicious. Just want to talk about who you are as a producer and what it was that you like about horror, and specifically For the Sake of Vicious.
Well, I mean, like Reese, I grew up in Edmonton, and I mean, I've been a fan of film since I don't even maybe 8 or 9 years old. Actually, the story that I tell is that when I was really young, my father used to work really late in the basement on paperwork and stuff for his business. And I went downstairs to say goodnight to my father, and he was watching something really cool on the television. And I looked, I was like enamored by it. And I later discovered that was Vincent Price Wax Museum. And I said, he said, and I don't remember this vividly, but he said that I pointed to the TV and I said that's what I want to do. And he says, what? I says, I want to make that. And that was 9. And then I in high school, I started working for the local movie theater in Edmonton, and we opened Jaws, and I was like, whoa, like this was something I'd never seen before. And it is in my top 2-3 films of all time. And I tried to go to film school. I didn't get it accepted. So I went and got my degree in computers and graduated in Arizona with a degree in computer science. I did that for a while, and then just got my best friend growing up got into film in Toronto. And I moved out to Toronto and was working in the computer industry and just quit and started working in film. And I've been in film since 1994. I started producing feature films in 2007. And since then I've produced over 70 movies.
Yeah. Like I was saying, man, your list is long.
Yeah, I mean, but what's interesting to me about genre and horror is that I've traveled film festivals all over the world, but I've never seen audience as rabid and excited and passionate than going to a genre film festival and watching a full theater filled with people watching horror.
There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I want.
No, there's no drama or even a comedy that can get that kind of that level of intensity.
Yeah, and then the conversations spill out onto the street. I was in Fright Fest in the UK, and for a film of mine that was playing there, and they just spill on the scene, and they just want to stand there and talk about the film for hours. They could be there for hours. You don't see that in other genres, like you just don't. And I've established a really great relationship with Raven Banner and hopefully now with Epic and others. And my slate is basically 90% horror now, whereas it used to be mostly drama. And I had a film of mine that was the opening night film at the Toronto International Film Festival. Like I've had that kind of success in that kind of genre, but it's just not the same as doing horror films. Like it's just way more interesting, and the people working with them, everybody's just so damn passionate about it that they become family, and you need that in making films, especially in our society the way it is right now. Like Gabe and Reese and Colin and Nick and everybody involved in this movie, we've done multiple movies together, that we can talk about later, but we love what we do and we want to keep doing it together. So
fantastic. Now, these days, producer can mean a ton of different things. Sometimes the producer is hands-on, sometimes hands-off. How involved were you with the film? Were you on the set with these guys?
No, I wasn't on the set with them.
Thank God he wasn't.
Yeah.
But
I feel like he would have shut it down the second day.
but look, how I got involved with this is that I had made a movie called Life Changer, and it was playing at a festival, and Gabe and Reese came out after the screening and congratulated us about the film, and it came to that they had a project through that Raven Banner was interested in getting involved in, and Raven Banner introduced me to them more following that screening. And I read it and I thought, boy, I've never done a film like this, and I hadn't. And I thought that if we did it right, if we really focused a little bit more on the script, and really found great actors and the location, which was key, I think we could make a really, really good movie. And both Reese and Gabe are super talented, and really put so much energy and thought into every little detail of the film that it is, the result is what everybody gets to start seeing in theaters and in DVD and VOD very, very soon. It's a work of love for them, and even during this pandemic and having to do a lot of it from their living room or whatever, you can see the effort that went into this on screen, like you can. And I'm super proud of it. I've done, like I said, over 70 movies, and this one really is in my top 5% for sure, just because of what everybody brought to this film.
Fantastic. When a film is pulled off so well, obviously it's because, there was a great team effort and a spirit of collaboration, true spirit of collaboration, wherein you can create something even better than, the sum of your parts. Definitely excited to unpack this some more. Hey, just for those of you who've been patient with us through the live stream, apologize for the couple hiccups. Really appreciate you guys sticking with us. That's live internet, huh? What are we gonna do? But we're gonna definitely make sure you guys have the full experience available to you, and we're in it to win it. So thank you for sticking around. Reese and Gabe, I was reading a lot of really interesting stuff about your film on IMDb in the trivia section. I mean, sometimes you have just like a few, this person also starred with that person in this, but you really took some time to give people some really interesting treasure to find, to do a little digging. And we already kind of hit on how this film could not have been created during COVID because everyone's right up in each other's face. The other really interesting thing about For the Sake of Vicious is the way the whole thing takes place in close quarters, and how that adds, purposely so, to the intensity of everything. Can you talk a little bit about the set / building you were in, and the ways that you're especially proud of utilizing it to create these horrifying, dread-filled scenes?
Well, I mean, originally, like a year prior, when we were bouncing ideas off and we were storyboarding the script like the summer before we shot, and we had a house and like our idea of our house, and we were going to get a sound stage or studio and build the house in a studio or sound stage, so we can remove the ceilings and move the, you know what I mean? You can do it that way, not use a real house. But as we got closer, our production designer dropped out, and two of the places we had to build the house flunked out. So we were calling demolition places, looking for houses for anything. And then through Reese's wizardry, through his contacts, he found this little house in another city. And when I mean little house, and the inside, even for me and Reese, the hallways were so narrow. And I can't even imagine for Nick, because Nick's a big guy. Like, what are you, 6'5" or something like that?
6'3",
I mean,
yeah.
he was like a giant in a doll's house in this place. Like, this place was built so small. So we got this house, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks prior to shooting, with no production designer, no time to find, and Reese and I had to jump the gun and go, we're screwed. Avi's going to kill us if we don't keep going here with something. So we spent weekends renting a van, picking up free furniture off Facebook Marketplace. A lot of that stuff, everything you see in the house, Reese and I brought in. The fridge, the stove, the toilet upstairs, like that bathroom, Reese and I built from scratch. It was actually a bedroom.
That's crazy. That's because, I mean, yeah, I never doubted that I was seeing something shot in an actual bathroom. But
okay, good.
Thank God.
We were like, they don't build bathrooms this big in these small homes.
It felt super tight. Like I was uncomfortable being in there with y'all. Okay,
good. Yeah, we got, I know on the behind the scenes on the Blu-ray, there's some really funny stuff of us setting stuff in there, including, I think the original video was like an hour. It took us 2 hours to bring that cast iron bathtub up this narrow stairwell. We got some of that. It was just insane, just getting everything in there. And then once we pretty much decked the place like a day before we started shooting, right, Reese? That's kind of when you and I went separate, because we had because the advantage of having two directors, you're able to split up the duties. And on an independent film like this, you kind of need that and trust. So that's kind of when we went like this. So I kind of went to the camera department and visual aspect, and you kind of went to the actors. But what was it, like a couple of days before shooting, we were like,
yeah, I mean, it was, I mean, he that's exactly how it went. And I mean, first off, two things, Josh, thank you for the compliments on the IMDb trivia. I'm obsessed with my IMDb app on my phone. And before I go to bed every night, I'm reading trivia sections for any movie I can.
I love doing that too.
That's like my nighttime, like that's my happy place. So when it came to For the Sake of Vicious, I'm like, I know this world. I want, like, if you're sitting there at night reading this, I want you to have a good story, you know? Like,
yeah.
Sometimes the trivia makes you want to watch the movie.
You know, as a journalist, sometimes I go into the trivia to find out this great thing that's gonna, you know, set my article apart. You know, these little fun gems that just somehow make it to the trivia section and don't have much legs after that.
Exactly, and I want to hunt down the people who put in the trivia. Did you know these two people starred in this movie and then they starred in a superhero film together? Oh my God, that is like the devil's anus of IMDb trivia.
Yeah.
Anyways, more to the point. Sorry, going back to the house, I have to give a shout out to my father, Les. He was responsible. He was like the magic wizard who kind of nailed down getting that house for us. He had a contact with a contracting company that he worked very closely with. And he called them out of the blue, got me on the phone with them. And they're like, yeah, man, we have this house that we have that we're going to tear down. We're going to put in some bungalows. Throw us a few bucks. We'll turn the water and power back onto it. And you guys can have it and do whatever you want to it. And I said, are you sure? And they said, yes. I'm like, because we are gonna fuck this place up. So,
no, yeah, and you did. I mean, you know, guns in there, blowing shit off the walls. You know, so that house was set to be demolished anyway. They were like, go ahead and trash it.
But it was
what an awesome opportunity, though,
yeah.
when you're filming a home invasion horror movie with a whole horde of violent bikers in it. You know,
100%.
Didn't ask for anything better.
And like Gabe said, like there was just no room to move in there. It was very tiny. And we had to fit the entire cast and crew in there while we were shooting. We rented a little camper trailer that we parked outside. That was sort of like the de facto office and craft room. But other than that, like there wasn't anything. Like you'd put the camera equipment in the basement, and then we had a room upstairs that our production and props would store, and we'd share it with the camera department. And we had the computers with the hard drive set up. And then we had one back room that was also a set, but it was also the green room / change room / makeup room. Like thinking back to it, it actually like makes me uncomfortable.
I'm watching Nick right now going, is he reliving this as Reese?
Well, I'm just I'm getting a lot of flashbacks here. That's for sure. Okay, I'll let you go. Yeah.
No, that's it. So I like to stress to people when they watch the movie, like that house is even smaller than you think it is.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And just picture all of us just like squeezed in there as tight as you can.
Which is why the smell of that place was what it was.
Ooh, that's one thing we don't get on the video in
No
when we watch the
smell-o-vision.
movie.
The best
Yeah.
example I can give is like hockey sweat with blue cheese and vinegar.
Stop it! I haven't had dinner yet tonight. You're
You know
gonna
what I
make
mean?
my stomach start grumbling.
Blue cheese is good with like wine and crackers, but when you just smell it, it's like, ugh. But mix that with hockey sweat.
Stop it! It's sumptuous. Nick, I'm glad you started talking though, because I did want to talk to you some more, you and Colin actually. And what I would like to talk to you both about is Laura Burke. I mean, you guys are a small cast. You guys are both stars of this film, but there's a third, three main characters, equally important. We've got two of them here, but we don't have Laura Burke. So let's talk about what it was like to work with her. What was she like, and what were some of your favorite scenes to shoot with her? Nick, since you were talking first, why don't you go
I mean,
first?
Laura Burke it really is a powerhouse actor, and you want to work with somebody that's going to give 110% to every single scene, and it just makes you better. And that's certainly the kind of actress that Laura is. And I think it was just a blast to work with her, and almost every one of my scenes. I think every one of my scenes, well, almost was with Laura. And that was the first time her and I worked together. We've done 3 films together now.
Oh wow!
And she's just a super talent. And it was like to work with her on a film like this, and that was our first kind of collaboration together. You really get to know each other in many different ways. And I had a blast. I'm sure Colin would do the same thing.
Yeah. How was it like for you, Colin?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100% with what Nick just said. She has no quit in her. Like she is literally, like Nick said, a powerhouse. She just does not stop. And her work ethic is just impeccable, and it's really impressive to watch. And yeah, I mean, this is this story, for all of the fights and the violence and everything like that that's involved, it's an intimate film, and
On many levels.
On many levels, and working with both Nick and Laura in these like intense scenes was and just watching specifically, like Nick knows how good he is. I don't need to pump him up. We're talking about Laura here, Nick. Get off of it. All right. Just like watching her, there's I don't want to get into specific scenes because of spoilers, but like I spend 95% of the movie in the kitchen anyway, so whatever. I'm thinking of scenes in the kitchen because that's where most of my scenes take place. But like there's a scene where Laura, where Laura actually, she hardly says a word in this scene, but her intensity is like she's saying pages and pages of monologues.
I think I know the scene you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's when we were doing coverage and everything, it's sort of you're in the scene and everything like that, but it does allow you a little more leeway to be able, when you're not on camera, to be able to watch what the other actors are doing. And I was able to do that in those scenes. And man, I tell you, like, there's a reason that she works as much as she does, because she's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too that obviously casting is super important on every film, but I just felt like the first half of this film is such a back and forth between the 3 of us, that if one of these casting decisions was not working, I just would have crash and burn with that scene. And so I remember being on set and talking to Reese, being like, dude, like, so good on casting, man, so good on casting. I remember he just looked at me and was like, that's what I do.
No, you're right. I mean, in a
That
movie
does not
this
sound like
intimate,
me.
You said it. You said it.
Come on, hello, come on.
it's
I
funny,
gotta-
but
you
it's
gotta-
true. It's
You
true
gotta throw
because
some credit to, sorry, go ahead, Josh.
no, yeah, with a film like this, with a small cast and three equally important leads, anyone could have derailed the other. So you're making a valid point. You know, Reese, it wouldn't surprise me if you said that. You seem to know that you kind of nailed it there.
Well, I got to throw a lot of credit to Avi here and the rest of our producers because they pushed us hard when it came to casting. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's like Colin was saying, like we were down to the wire, and it was just so integral to get those three like nailed perfectly. I can't say it any better than Nick himself said it with why, but I mean, and I really appreciate that from Avi because as independent filmmakers, you know, sometimes you don't have that pressure put on you. So it was kind of nice to know that that was sort of the first sign for me that I'm like, wow, these guys really have our back. Like they want this cast to be perfect, you know? It wasn't just, yeah, cast your buddies, go ahead, which essentially I still ended up doing, but they had to go through the trial first, which was good. So
I mean, we were struggling with the Romina character, and I had done a movie with Laura Burke called Life Changer, and I pushed her towards the director of that movie after seeing her in Poor Agnes, and she was amazing, and she won Best Actress in Fantasia with that role. And when we were struggling to find Romina, I suggested her Laura to Gabe and Reese, and they brought her in for an audition, and they called me right after, and they said, like, holy shit, like she's a pro. And since then I've done 2 other projects. Like I try to put her in everything I can because she, you know, I agree with everything Nick and Colin and Reese and Gabe have always said about her. She's a pro. Like she is a perfectionist as an actress, and how she prepares herself for every scene in the film. She really wanted to do her own stunts, and since then we've done a couple of other projects where she's done her own stunts. She's all in. She's an invested actress, 100%. And she makes everybody else around her better, and really challenges everybody to be the best that they can possibly be. And I think that helps every actor that's on set. I really did.
Oh yeah, and you know, obviously we would have loved to have had her on the panel as well, but you know, it's just so great to take a little time out and really acknowledge what she put into this, because you know that wasn't an easy role. It's this isn't a light, easy watching movie. This is a hellacious experience, and you know she nailed it, you know, and she deserves props for that. And it's always just great hearing great things about the people who bring us great performances. So just awesome. Avi, I want to ask you as the producer, you know, as somebody who kind of sees everything from the outside, you know, for the sake of Vicious, it seems to be grounded in 2 specific subgenres of horror: revenge and home invasion. At the same time, I feel like it does a really good job of playing with your expectations of both. You want to talk about how you guys discussed crafting something that would be familiar yet unique?
Well, I mean, I think that the first draft that I ever read of it, I mean, I felt that it was something that we'd never really see made here. I hadn't seen it. And you know, as the title, it's vicious. I mean, it's unrelenting. Like starting around the 25-minute mark, the pedal is down to the floor, and it doesn't stop till the very end of the movie. And I really feel like, and you know, and there's some really dramatic film moments in this film, like some real great scenes of drama, but you know, in the kitchen scenes where Colin and Nick and Laura are having, you know, moments of real moments of Nick, you know, the scene of Nick looking for his daughter and so on. Like there's just, you don't see that a lot in I hadn't seen a lot in horror. where there's a real um, effort to really build these characters and their backstory and emotion and every emotion exists in this storytelling. And you don't, again, I don't feel that you see enough of that. And you can relate as a like Nick's a parent in this film, how he reacts to what happens with his daughter and his family, and Laura's character has to deal with her relationship with her son, and Colin's got a family that he's deeply affected by. It's real stuff that we all can relate to some extent. And when you bring all these forces together because of the situation, it makes for great storytelling. And I just think that the development of those stories, I think, are key to, I think, making this as good a movie as it is. I mean, obviously the action is awesome and everybody talks about
It
that.
is.
I do think that the storytelling and what brings these characters to this one night is pretty great.
It is pretty great. And let me go back to the co-directors, because I want to impress on people tuning in that there's a mystery involved here. You're putting pieces together the whole time. Do you guys want to offer any breadcrumbs, or point out things that viewers should pay a special attention to if they want to really like glean the most out of this film? Or do you want to just speak to the mystery angle of the film, the whodunit of it all?
I think that that's kind of the fun of watching it. That's my cheap out answer, just in the sense that when we wrote it and when we were structuring it originally with the outline, it was this idea of like we never wanted to give the audience too much to work with because we just thought it would kind of ruin the feel of the movie. We thought this idea of like having too much exposition would kind of take away from the realism of it, because we really wanted it to be like as soon as the movie starts, we throw you into the situation and you're only gonna get the information that the characters get. And that's it. We're not going to stop the movie to have somebody give a giant villain speech, because we're going, well, they wouldn't do that because they already know the dynamic between each other. And everything that happens in the film was based on that sort of initial idea, which is that we're not going to spoon feed people this time because we want you to just be there with them. And that either works for you or that doesn't. But for us, that was very important. We know what's going on. And as far as we can tell from, having written the damn thing and put it together, all the information is there for you. However you want to walk away from it is completely up to you, specifically with the twists and who's who and who's really bad and who's really not bad. It is completely up to you. And we never wanted to just like go, yep, that's the guilty party right there. We thought that would take away from the power of what we're trying to do. So
I find it so fascinating that you say, on the one hand, yes, we know, I know what's going on, but you're totally fine with someone else thinking they know, even if it's different than what you think.
100%.
Yeah.
It plays out in real time, right? That's another thing too. We really wanted to
I don't think I was even paying attention to that fact. That's awesome.
Yeah, like we really wanted to put you in their shoes and at moments think, what would you do? Like, if you were Chris, what would you be doing right now? If you were her, what would you be doing? If you were Colin, what would you be doing? And it was playing out in real time. So you don't have this time that Reese was saying to go in exposition or whatever, because, it's like driving down the highway. When a car crash happens, it freaking happens. Like, there's no time to think, well, let's see here. That car was coming this way. You analyze it after.
Right.
And we really thought that... Go ahead, Josh.
I was just saying, and I definitely do spend time reanalyzing it and revisiting it. I watched it for a second time, to prepare for the panel, and obviously I saw things I didn't see the first time. Reese, expand.
Well, no, and it's just, to me, that was kind of the fun of the 180 turn that the movie takes halfway through. And I know we've seen that bothers some people, but to me, I'm like, well, that's great, because if you were in their shoes, you'd be just as pissed off. Like,
Mhm.
they have no idea that's coming, you know, and the audience isn't supposed to know that either. And we don't want to explain. It's like you can't stop the movie to be like, here's the buildup to using Gabe's analogy here about the car crash. Like, if you see a car crash happening, you don't see the story of what happened in the car to happen to that, you know? It just happens in front of your face. So,
Yeah.
but again, I still think, and we've talked about this a lot, is that we've given you everything. Like, all the answers are there. We're not really hiding anything. It's just a matter of how you want to interpret it. And I would think that, I think I've seen some people, even who like the film, that are trying to overcomplicate it.
Interesting.
And we're like, no, it's
Interesting.
very straightforward. So,
You know,
it's probably
so-
exactly what you think it is.
Since you mentioned the 180, the film turned, it does at the halfway point. I did notice that myself. You know, normally every movie I see, I almost just like mentally go, okay, first act's over, second act. Okay, third act begins now. This film really does seem to have a halfway point, and I did look at the time and it was like 41 minutes, and it's like, you know what, like, yeah, things have definitely gone in a new way.
Yeah.
Quite severely, unapologetically, you know, clearly this is a different movie than we began with, starting right now.
Yeah.
Which I think is definitely part of the fantastic ride that this film takes us on. Something that we hit on that I want to revisit too, because you always get fun stories out of things like this. Talking about, it was mentioned that, you know, Laura did most of her own stunts. You know, I think I read in IMDb that basically y'all did all your own stunts. So for Nick and Colin, I want to know, what was the scene that pushed you to the max the most? You know, what do you got? Colin, why don't you kick it off first?
Yeah. I
All
mean,
right. Okay. No, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Go ahead,
I
Nick.
was gonna say that I think the bathroom scene is what is what kind of comes to mind right off the bat. I remember like that bathroom scene where there was a lot of build up before we filmed that. I remember Phil had a big speech before we filmed that, where he kind of gathered everyone together, and he was like, "This is the scene I want people to talk about when they leave the theater." And do you remember saying that, Phil?
Yep.
Yeah.
You said it in character to me. Always in character.
And I think that in a lot of ways, perhaps, you know, hopefully that happened when people watch this movie, because
I think that's the scene where you screamed the loudest out of
Yeah,
any
when
other
the
point
knife goes
film. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Well, there's just, you know, that was the scene where you really realize as an actor, where you're like, yeah, we're doing our own stunts here. Like
Yeah.
we're taking the hits for real. And it was just a blast, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I've said this before too to Phil, where you know, even though this movie was a bit of a slug to get through at times, I think about this movie and I just think about the laughs, and like, how many times as an actor you get to, like, you know, push yourself emotionally, but then also push yourself physically like that. Like, I'm not a stunt person, and, like, you know, for these few weeks when we got to go away and make this movie, I was, and like, it was so fun to do that. So fun. But yeah, but going back to your question, like that bathroom scene, it was just so nonstop. You know, it wasn't just like one simple fight. It felt like three fights, just one on top of each other. That's my memory anyway. Yeah. How about you, Colin?
No, that's fantastic. Yeah. How about you, Colin?
Just to add on to Nick's comment, is I remember after him finishing that scene, he came downstairs. It was all shot upstairs in the bathroom. He came downstairs to where everybody else was, and he was drenched from head to foot with sweat. He was just dripping with it. It was disgusting but glorious at the same time. It was awesome. It was awesome.
And like Colin had no idea what we were filming. Really, he was kind of just sitting downstairs, just hearing screams.
Yep. Had no idea what was going on. Had no idea what that scene looked like until I saw the final edit. So, but for me, you know what? I didn't have a whole lot of physical activity in this film.
You're kind of restricted to the kitchen for the most part.
I was, yeah. The toughest scene for me was that the scene dubbed the trial, the big huge emotional scene, and that's the one that sort of you know, mentally sort of wore me out a little bit. And usually, like I mentioned earlier, you know, I'm the kind of guy that when I hear cut, I can break character. but that scene, it stayed with me for like a good 3 or 4 days afterwards, and it took me a while to sort of shake that, after a while. So, but yeah, that's what it was for me. It was.
I'm still living in that scene, man. I'm like in some other dimension, we're still filming that thing even now. But like that was the scene with that the second half of the movie, which is an incredible amount of physical stuff and incredible fighting, but the first half of the movie was the stuff that I was looking forward to doing the most. That was the stuff that I've never really been given a chance to do that kind of emotional work until this movie. I mean, Reese knows this. Like, my background's in comedy, for years and years. I started off as a stand-up in Halifax, and I worked for Much Music and all that stuff, which is a station over here in Canada, just doing a lot of goofy stuff. But my interest and my focus just changed. And like Reese and Avi and Phil are the people that kind of gave me a first shot at playing some really dramatic stuff. And so that stuff in the kitchen, I look forward to doing for the longest time. And there is some intense stuff in that scene, man.
Hell yeah, there's some intense stuff. We're talking about a movie called For the Sake of Vicious. For those of you just tuning in, as we're about to start wrapping up, the movie will be available on VOD beginning April 20th, 4/20. Going to be followed by a Blu-ray release, I believe the first week of May. We'll let you know on the Dread Central. Just come check us out. But been here with these 5 creators, 2 directors, 2 cast members, and a producer, talking about this incredibly brutal, violent film, a revenge film, home invasion film that's got a crazy biker gang involved somehow that I'm not going to ruin. You're going to want to see this movie. It's a lot of fun. But before we wrap things up, I do want to take a minute to just go around and hear what everyone's doing now, hear what you're up to, as much as you can be up to anything while on lockdown. And then I just want you to give me a little parting words give us a few parting words about For the Sake of Vicious. And I'm gonna start with you, Avi. What are you working on, and why should we be excited to see For the Sake of Vicious?
So I have a new movie that's just starting to travel around the film festival circuit. Also stars Laura Burke, and it has Nick Smyth in it and Colin Paradine. They're the 3 leads of the movie. It's called Motherly. It's directed by a gentleman named Craig David Wallace, who did Todd in the Book of Pure Evil. And so it starts traveling around. And I've started directing. I directed a short, and I directed my first feature in November.
Oh, fantastic.
So after all this producing, I threw myself out there and doing a bit of directing now. And about Vicious, I mean, I think everybody who likes something that's just nonstop action and it's relentless, this is the movie for them. I just can't say enough about. I sat in on the sound mix, and I literally had to pull away from watching. I was a bit freaked out. It was so in your face.
I remember that.
Guys were watching it with me, and I was like, I had to turn away. The blood and the splatter and everything else freaked me out.
Yeah, so take that as a warning and a dare For the Sake of Vicious. Thank you so much, Avi, for being here, sharing your time this evening. Colin, what are you working on these days when you're not locked down?
When I'm not locked down, I don't know what that's like anymore. You know what? I'm auditioning just like all the other actors out there. I've auditioned for a few things. I actually auditioned for Avi a little while back, and he didn't hire me.
Oh,
kidding, Avi. I'm kidding. No, and I'm writing as well. So I've got a few screenplays that I'm working on, and
fantastic.
Yeah, man. And as for Vicious, there is we had been through a few film festivals, and we had some reviews come out, and I'm going to get the quote wrong, but it's I'm going to paraphrase. It's like a well-timed punch to the jaw.
Hell yeah.
That's what For the Sake of Vicious is. And if you're into that shit, then you're gonna dig this shit.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, man.
Fuck yeah. Thanks so much for being here, man. You gave such a killer performance, and can't wait for people to check out the brutality you are able to endure. And Nick Smyth, I can't wait for people to see the brutality you are able to inflict. What are you working on these days?
Yeah, like Avi was saying that I did Muddily with him, and then I had another film that I did with him that we wrapped just a few weeks ago. But they're both pretty dark characters, and I can't wait for people to see those. But yeah, when it comes to For the Sake of Vicious, if you this is like a home invasion film on acid. And that's really, and we didn't touch on the music, but the music.
We didn't, and that's the only other note I had, actually.
Come on, Josh.
Soundtrack.
Yeah.
Let's
tight
do it.
spaces.
Yeah, should we open that chestnut up?
I mean, at least let us know who did this amazing soundtrack and whether or not there's going to be a soundtrack release.
He's right there.
Well, that's Mr. Gabe right there. Yeah.
The soundtrack is released.
Oh,
you can get it.
Continue.
Oh no, you can. It's released. Avi has a record company too, and you can get it on iTunes. You can get it on Spotify. You can get it directly from Bandcamp. All the tracks are there. I think it's like $9 or something ridiculous.
Yeah. And I have it, and I listen to it regularly, not because I'm in the movie, but because it's so fucking dope.
It is, and proof by the fact that I made a note to be sure to talk about it, and I didn't remember to until we're wrapping up the show.
The thought means more than you know. Thank you.
Hey man, it's a great. I hope it gets a vinyl pressing, because I'm all about the vinyl these days. But no, that's fantastic. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, because the soundtrack is fucking amazing. Well, let's bring it on home by talking to the directors and Gabe, the composer. What are you working on now, and why should we be stoked to check out For the Sake of Vicious on 420?
I think, well, I know people have asked, are you Reese going to do another movie together? Are you guys going to co-direct? Maybe one day for sure. He's one of my best friends. I've known him for over 10 years. We've always helped each other on each other's films. We have that brotherhood, all dating back. God, I don't even remember. We have two separate projects right now that Avi is producing. Untitled, they're in development. We're both involved in each other's projects, probably just as much as this. When you work so close with someone on projects, it almost doesn't feel like it's yours. You're directing it, It almost, because it's such a communal experience, you're just helping each other get this art, this film out there to the world. And same with Avi. So yeah, we have that in development, and a few other scripts, but we both have one that's kind of they're both being pushed forward. It's just a matter of timing right now because of other gigs and jobs.
Worlds will collide.
And Avi, honestly, Avi is an amazing producer. I will text him an idea at 4 a.m. and he'll respond to it.
Nice.
And he'll either shoot it down or whatever. So it's amazing to have a producer in your life that's and a creative mind who, who'll just listen to you.
That is awesome. I mean, someone to really rebound ideas off of. I love it. I'm such a huge fan of collaborating, and the art that comes out of collaboration. You guys clearly have a great core group together, and I love For the Sake of Vicious. I can't wait to see what you guys are doing next. Reese, you helped me organize this panel, getting everyone here, so we give you the final word on everything. But first, tell us what you're working on now.
Kind of like Gabe said, that we're developing some projects with Mr. Avi Federgreen here and Raven Banner. I've got something pretty cool in the works, and
well, you'll have to tell us when the time is right, so that we can give you the proper promotion on Dread Central.
Well, I hope so, because it's been a blast, even just this last hour. But I'm pretty excited about that. And as for Vicious, I mean, look, you're kind of getting a few different movies in one, which is what I like when I go to see a movie. Is I like some variety, and as Josh so beautifully pointed out, it doesn't do what you think it's going to do. It doesn't follow a traditional 3-act structure, so it really throws you for a loop. But even that, I mean, you got drama, you got suspense, you've got terror, you got horror, you've got intense sequences of action, and just some unbelievably beautiful bloody violence, you know, which is, I think, to me as a genre fan, why would you not want to seek that out? And I mean, I want to give a shout out to, I know we talked about Laura, and Laura is obviously incredible, Laura Burke, but these two here, Nick Smyth and Colin Paradine, like, they were just joys to work with. Some of my fondest memories are of us just sitting in a room together, just like breathing, living and breathing the screenplay and really breaking these scenes. And some of the shit they had to be put through, like it's not acting. Those are those guys in that situation. And Avi for getting us here. And, you know, Gabe, I don't know what I can say. I was in a dark place when he brought me this story. I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep making movies, and if it wasn't for him kind of reaching forward and grabbing me and say, "You will do this," I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be working with these wonderful people and be back in this situation. So there's a lot emotionally riding on this project, and it's very important to me that we're here. And thank you again for taking the time to talk to us about it. So,
well, damn, homie, you're getting me all choked up here, but that's great to hear, you know. And that's why we love doing these panels, is because we learn things like this and we find out just how invested the people who bring us these films really are. And I think it's going to be obvious to everyone who watches For the Sake of Vicious that a lot of people put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this film, mostly blood and sweat and tears into this film. Again, I can't thank you enough for being here. For the Sake of Vicious hits VOD on 4/20, a date I'll never forget for some reason. So look for it then. Look for it on Blu-ray, first week of May. Thanks to all of my panelists for being here. Congratulations on the film. I know it's going to be a success. Thanks to all of you who tuned in on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube to check us out. You know, we love doing it for you guys too. Thanks to my team at Dread Central for supplying the technical backup. Couldn't do it without all of you. And just so happy to have been able to spend this last hour with you talking about For the Sake of Vicious, a film we honestly think you're going to love. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, Josh.
They're not gonna let us leave. I don't know what to do right now, but something is happening that is completely out of our control. I can't do this by myself. You raped my daughter.
You beat a guy half to death. Broke into my house, made me lie to my kid.
Please. I'm not here to hurt you.
This is Charlotte, right? You're the dad.
Got someone on the way.
They're not gonna let us leave. I don't know what to do right now, but something is happening that is completely out of our control.